18th, 2024. Is there any courtesy of the floor? Hearing and seeing none, we'll start with an update regarding our preparations for the election. Mr.
Hello,
Cunning,
good evening.
good evening.
Okay, so where are we at right now? Voter registrations, currently 227,000 plus. Last day to register is October 21st. That registration, we will be here until most likely 8 o'clock at night for people to come in and do that, or they can do it online until 11:59 p.m. Okay, so that is the deadline for that. We are pretty much right around where we were in 2020 as far as voter registrations. I believe that many, that was our total 227 for 2020. So probably going to go over that. Absentee mail-in ballots, currently we are at 39,000 plus for applications that have come in. That deadline is October 29th, and that is 5 p.m. So we'll be in the office if anybody wants to fill out because what that does is when we do have the on-demand balloting, you have to fill out a mail-in ballot application. So that's the same day that on-demand ends. So we have people coming to the office up until 5 o'clock. Okay. The final for 2020 as far as mail-in ballots was approximately 73,000. So we're at less than 40 with about a month and a half to go. Don't know if we'll get to those levels, but again, kind of hard to gauge when you're trying to compare numbers election to election. 2020 could have been a different animal because of COVID. So, you know, we'll see where we net out at the end. Military ballots, statutorily, those have to be sent out Saturday this week. So even if we did not, which we do, the state finalized our ballot the other day. Even if we did not have a finalized ballot, we would have to send out the military ballots on that day. But we do, so we'll get that ballot sent, and most of those go out via email. The majority of them ask for them. And that's our overseas citizens and military voters, same ballot. Our current expectations for everything, now that we have a finalized ballot, is early October, and that's the best I can do. I'm not going to put a specific date on it.
Mean, slow down for a minute.
Yeah,
what do
sure.
you mean by your current expectations
For
to have your ballot?
LNA, sending out the ballots, starting on-demand balloting in the office. I can't put a specific date on it yet because we are still doing finalization of the finalized ballot with our voting machine company. We have to run through all the proofs, make sure everything gets done there. Once we get that, we have to have the printing company print a test deck, and then we have to make sure that that test deck works by LNAing our central scanners to make sure that when these people send back their mail-in ballots, that they're going to get scanned properly. So we do have to test those. So once we get that test deck and we confirm that it works, we can start printing our ballots. And that will take, once our printer gets the okay to do that, it will probably take maybe 4 to 5 days for them to actually ship us our ballots. Then we can start mailing them out. So our current expectation with the finalized ballot that we have is early October. I'll say very early October, okay? I won't put a specific date on it. So I mentioned a couple of the important dates. The voter registration is the 21st, mail-in ballot is the 29th. Election day, of course, is November 5th. Polls are open from 7 o'clock in the morning until 8 p.m. at night. I will tell the voters, if you are in line at 8 p.m., do not leave. Because if you leave, you can't vote. If you're in line by 8 o'clock, you're allowed to go in that building. They can't tell you you have to go home, okay? So 8 p.m., if you're in line and there's 15 people in front of you, please wait, okay? We want to make sure everybody gets a chance to vote. Drop boxes, I put the information is on our website. NorthamptonVotes.com is our website. You'll get right there. If you go towards the bottom of the page, there'll be a tab that says drop boxes. There will be a picture in there of all of our drop boxes. I can certainly get you a copy of that as well. Looks like this, okay? Same as we had back in the primary. Our 3 locations are still there up in East Allen, Washington Township, and of course the Fowler Center for Northampton Community College. The only updates we have as far as timing for the drop boxes, once we start mailing ballots, we usually mail them out and we give it 1 or 2 days to put the drop boxes in place because we want to make sure those drop boxes are out there. So once the ballots are in people's hands, they have an opportunity to place them in a drop box. We are extending our hours here in the courthouse from 8:30 to 8 p.m. every day that we can accept ballots, all the way up until November 5th. And we're also going to have every Saturday in October available, and I guess there's one in November as well, from 9 o'clock to 2. So people will come into the courthouse rotunda, that drop box will be available. All the other drop boxes, the times are not changing except for 911. The drop box we have there, we've discussed it with 911, it's much easier for them. That drop box will be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So anybody who needs to use that drop box, it's under camera, it's chained up, it's secured in that building, but it's much easier for them because they are there all the time to not have to lock that door every night. So it takes a step away from them, and it also makes it available for everybody to have an opportunity to use that box. Okay. Won't get into specifics on security that we've done internally, but we've made some enhancements to our facilities, some of the stuff we do, working with our partners at Homeland Security and CISA and our Sheriff's Department, our Emergency Management Department. So we've made some upgrades there. Can't get into specifics on that stuff. I will reiterate, which I mentioned in the primary, paper ballots at the polling place are not a thing, okay? If you want to vote a paper ballot, we have mail-in ballots. You have the opportunity to go to the polling place if you wish. And if you need a provisional ballot, there are specific reasons for a provisional ballot, okay? There are 4 or 5 reasons that you can get a provisional ballot. You can't walk into a polling place and just say, I don't like the machine, I want to vote on paper. Doesn't work that way, okay? So if you have an opportunity, you wish to vote on paper, please apply for a mail-in ballot. We do have those available. And I will point out my final thing is that we did have an issue back in August where a text message went out from a group called allvotes.com. Send it to longtime registered voters and said, there's a problem with your voter registration. Check this link and we'll fix it for you and we'll make sure you're good to go. We had to send out a press release that it was a scam. It was what they call smishing. Okay, so we had to put a press release for that. We just want to make sure that all the voters understand if they have any issues or questions about stuff they get in the mail, whether they get those third-party voter registrations, they get 2 or 3 of them in the mail, or if they get a mail-in ballot application, I've already applied, I've already registered to vote. Why am I getting this? Why am I getting 2 or 3? We have no control over those third-party applications. It should say on those things, paid for by. They're legal, they're valid applications. If you're not, if you haven't applied, you can send those back. But if you have questions, you have concerns about anything you get in the mail, please contact us. We are a trusted source in the county. Contact our office. Our office number is on our website. You can always email us. That is also on the website. So we just want to make sure that any questions that do come in, or if anybody does have any questions, they should come into our office. We'd be glad to answer them.
Okay. Any questions so far? I'll go down the row. Go ahead. John and then.
Sorry, a couple of questions. You mentioned, when would the mail-in ballots be available to go out?
We're hoping early October, so hoping.
So.
That's our expectation.
Right,
That's our
and
current
that-
expectation.
And that's being held up by the state?
No, the state ballot is fine, but we have to run through our internal testing to
You're
make sure
going through the
everything works.
internal process?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
so the turnaround on the mail-in ballots is going to have to be pretty quick in order to make sure they arrive.
We will
They need to
have-
be in the courthouse
Yep.
by 8 PM.
But I will point out that back in April, when we had the primary, we had multiple ballot challenges, which gave us 2 weeks to get out the ballots. We'll have a month.
No,
So,
okay.
yeah.
And then you said the drop boxes would be available. Will the elections office be open concurrently?
Yes.
And when would that start?
Same day we mail out the ballots, we will open up on-demand balloting, and we will be open late.
So once, and we don't know what that date
Right.
is, which you just clarified.
Correct.
Okay. Then, but the second part of this is more of a request. There were a lot of issues in the last cycle around communication about, as you say, stay in line, don't leave, provisional, that
Sure.
type of thing. Do you have there is a list of judge of elections by district? Is that correct?
We have,
The office should have a list by,
I'd have to check with our solicitor whether that is available. I know there are, those are elected positions, but I'll see what kind of list we can put together because unfortunately in the climate we're in, a lot of our poll workers are concerned with their information getting out. So we do want to make sure they're protected.
They are publicly elected.
Not all of them are though. There are some that are appointed. So we want to make sure that, we call that list. So that might be a question for the solicitor.
Okay, I would like to, I would like a copy of that, I would like that list.
Okay.
Okay, and then also, in parallel with that is the inspectors of the elections, right? Each district has an inspector.
Majority and minority. Yep.
I would like that list also.
Okay. I will check.
And you could just let me know through the council office would be fine.
Okay. Sure.
Thank you.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
How many ballots are you guys planning on printing?
We are looking at probably, what I do is I go through and look at by district, how many current applications we have, and I try to increase that number by 50%.
50%. So on hand, the precincts.
Oh,
will have-
for ballots at the polling place or mail-in ballots?
Well, I guess I kind of want to know the total number of ballots printed in mass for the
Sure.
entire.
So right now, I'm mentioning that 39,000 mail-in ballots we have. So if you think about that number, it's going to be 50% more that will be available because we have to send this ballot order in before we actually finalize the application process. So we'll do that. As far as provisionals, we base provisionals on the number of machines that a polling place gets. So if a polling place gets one machine, they will get 50 provisionals. If they get two machines, they'll get 75 provisionals. If they have 3 or 4 machines, they'll get 100 provisionals. We also increase the 2 colleges, Lehigh, we have polling place, and for Lafayette as well. We get a lot of times where the students may or may not be registered to vote or something happened with their registration. So we provide them with a little bit extra provisionals just in case. So we will increase that number. As far as emergency ballots, in the primary, we printed 30%. The state requires us to do 20. Okay, so we upped that to 30%. So what that basically means is however many registered voters you have, we will provide 30% of emergency ballots in case of emergency. Okay, so we will send out to the polling location the state requirement of 20%. We will keep the extra 10% if needed here in the county, and we'll be able to send those out. If your 30% meets your total, you won't have any extra here. Everything will go to the polling location.
Okay. With all the court cases, I just saw recently that the Commonwealth Court is looking to do a run around the Supreme Court ruling in Pennsylvania about the undated ballots. How many undated ballots did you guys come across in 2020? Is this a small issue? Is it 1,000
In our
ballots?
county, we cure. So we do our best to make sure if there is an undated ballot that we call that voter up and get them in here to fix it. It's not a lot.
Yeah, right. It doesn't. It seems like they're making a
No.
bigger deal of it than
Yeah.
it actually is.
Yeah.
And I can attest to that. My mother actually did not date her ballot. I had to bring her down to the.
Yeah, they do have to come down. We can't just send it back out. They have to actually come into the office physically and fix it. And if they don't fix it, then they can,
As long as all the ballots are in hand before 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock on election night.
I don't see an issue.
Yep.
You guys anticipate to have the results in on election night?
Yes.
Be great. I think that speaks volumes for your department if it is. And then can you walk me through how the on-demand balloting works?
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so voter can come in to the office when we're open. We'll be open from 8:30 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, all the way up until October 29th, which will be open until 5 because that's a deadline. You come in, you fill out a mail-in ballot application, okay? Now, there's a misnomer going around the Commonwealth that Pennsylvania has early voting. There's no early voting in Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, somebody latched on to the date of September 16th, which is in the state calendar, that's the first day we can start processing applications. So people took that as means that's the first day I can start voting. Early voting means that you can go into your wherever, vote your ballot, and they'll actually count it that day. That's early voting. We have on-demand balloting. So you would come in and fill out a mail-in ballot application. We'll process that application. As you wait, we'll hand you the ballot, your secrecy envelope, everything over the counter. If you wish to fill it out in our office, you can do that. You can take it home with you, and you can send it in the mail or put it in one of our drop boxes. So that's basically the process.
And not one vote gets counted before election day?
Nope. Everything gets sealed up. If you do it in the office, we'll seal it up, we'll scan it that you've submitted your ballot, and we'll put it in our secure ballot room. We cannot open, according to Act 88, until 7 o'clock in the morning on Election Day.
One question that has been asked me dozens of times, and every time an election happens and there's issues at the polls, my phone starts ringing because I'm on county council, but most people have no idea that I have really no control at all what happens on election day. Is there any phone number, hotline, anything that people that are at the polls, if they're experiencing problems or experiencing somebody saying, hey, go back and come back later, kind of like the issues we've had in the past, how can voters express concerns or document issues that they've had on election day? Because once you leave election day, all of it becomes rumor mill.
Yeah. If
So-
you have a specific issue on Election Day and you're having a problem at your polling location, you can feel free to call our office number. Okay, our direct line, we have a full staff of temps already started. We will have approximately 15 people answering the phone that day.
Is there a cell phone that's tied to?
No.
Because it would be fantastic if there's something that we could send pictures or video of documenting if somebody's experiencing an issue or experiencing any.
If they want to do that, they could send it to our election inbox. We have an email as well. So
Is there any way to advertise that information
it's-
at the polls?
I'd have to check. I don't know the answer to that question.
Because at this point, I think you of all people know how big this election is and how everybody's going to be looking at anything that could be a problem. I think we need to give every opportunity for people to at least express, any issues that they might be experiencing, and then just show all transparency.
And after the fact, we do have a couple of them. They don't provide us with a lot, but there are complaint forms. If somebody has a complaint, it goes directly to the Department of State. So they'll get that form at the polling location. We only have a couple or a few. If we run out, they can always go to the Department of State website, and there's a location on that website to file any complaints they have. The Department of State takes those, and they forward them directly to the counties that are involved. So we do
Think
get
that
all
would
those
be a
complaints.
good idea to have advertising at the polls of ways that people can
Sure.
either get a hold of the county or send the county
Sure.
information?
I'll look into it. Absolutely.
I don't think it's a matter of us having to say, hey, we want to make an
No.
order.
Yeah.
If you think it's a good idea, then you can get on it. I think that'd be a great idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Yes, sir.
What are the Saturday hours for on-demand voting? Saturday?
Oh, that will be also as well 9 to 2. 9 to 2. Yes.
All right, I have, okay.
Just following up on John was talking about, so one of what the challenge last time was communication to the people waiting to vote or that were in the voting place. A lot of different statements were made about what they should do, shouldn't do, so on and so forth. So if I'm in a voting place and there's that kind of confusion going on, I think the challenge is where can the voter go to get clarity from a reliable source? We have people in the polling place that should be a reliable source, but they're getting information being fed to them from, I assume, your office. So that would be something I would ask to think about, how a voter could get direct access to direction from the county. So if I have a question, there should be a site I can go to and say, this is what you need to be doing. If it's, one or two minor issues, last time it was a pretty broad issue for an extended period of time. and number of voters that were disenfranchised only because of they were told to go home, or they were told to file a provisional, or whatever the combination was. So I think in follow-up to what John was saying, if there was a place that I, as a voter, with confidence could trust that information as my direction, I think that would be very helpful. You know, and as you say, there's a text, where's it coming from? Can I trust the text? I don't know the number. So if there is a reliable source that I could feel confident in, at least I know whatever I'm being directed to do in the moment, if there is an upset, I can have that confidence and quell the rumor mill, so to speak.
Sure. So with the understanding of the issues we had back in 2023, we made significant changes in this primary for 2024, where we're now, as I mentioned, we have 15 to 18 people answering telephones. We basically set up a call center in our office. We actually have emergency management on site. We have the voting machine company on site. We have the poll book company on site. So I can understand, and I'll take that suggestion to putting information at the polls, that they can certainly call our office if they have any questions. There are multiple people available to answer anything that's going on that day, and we can get that covered.
Real quick, and it's my understanding that before the primary election, that there was significant training
Yes,
done.
and
Enhanced training, in fact, correct?
Yep, and I will add, we made a couple changes, so we are again doing a full judges training as well. The machine and the clerk's position really hasn't changed from the last training we did back in April. So we are going to train any new people in those positions, but the judges are again going to get a full soup to nuts training. And I will add, we've also added for the first time a constable training. So we're bringing our constables in to give them some training, knowing what we're approaching, and just to make sure everybody's on the same page with what your roles are, what your responsibilities are. So we're doing everything we can, knowing that, you know, what's approaching, that we're going to do the best we can and give people the tools they need to perform their jobs.
Okay, anything else? I have a couple of questions, but a lot of people took them already. I want to thank council members for going out of order on the nice agenda that I created, because I should have made one big blob that says, talk about elections with Chris. But you touched a little bit on the communication, and again, you'll have a directed phone number, a directed email.
Yeah, we have,
Obviously, you have the judge of election present that you could start with them. And then do they still have the cell phones that
yes, I was
report?
going to say, we've kind of moved away from communicating with the cell phones. They have the cell phones so they can call our call center if
But
they have any questions.
If they have a problem, they
Yes,
can get
yes.
directly to you.
Anything has to come through now the call center. It's the main number. That's the only number we use. There's
Do you
no
want to
more.
state that so it's on the record? And
Sure, it's, our main number is 610-829-6260. And that is our call center number. And if anybody has 6260, and I mentioned the email we have, that's elections@norcopa.gov. And that's our central elections inbox.
Are those phone calls recorded?
That I don't think so, but when any call, we do have a tracking system. When anybody calls in, we have spreadsheets, everybody involved in the call center logs any call that comes in. So
Are
we
they
do have
part of our
logs.
county system? If they're part of
I
our
mean,
county
they're in the
system.
county. I mean,
Voice or IP, there's files, voice files.
Well, again, just because, you know, kind of like when you get a phone call, you're call a financial institution, you know, this is being recorded, and to Mr. Gofredo's point, evidentiary type of things that may have occurred, being able to document document what went on. And
Sure.
even if I'm calling complaining about, you know, I don't like the color of the ballot, fine, you know, but it's recorded and it's something that can be used later on.
Mr. Giovanni, we do not record phone calls. There is a recording of a voicemail if you leave a voicemail. We do not record phone calls for privacy reasons, and we never have. I don't know what the laws are surrounding that and what the consent is for a governmental entity, but we do not record. I just wanted to clear that up. Yeah, I know there's two-party consent in the Commonwealth, but I don't know what that is for a governmental entity if people call. So I just wanted to clear that part up. The voicemails are recorded and dumped into an email when we all get voicemails, which does happen. I'm sure you've seen those before, but we don't record any phone calls.
Sure, there'll be a lot of voice.
Yeah, but for our purposes, we do track every call that comes into the office
So.
for that day.
Back to my questions. No, so you have staff, you're having training, you said, for judges. You have staff. How is your staffing in terms of everything? And do you need anything from us? Because I know you're gonna need extra people for ballots and.
We have- we
First of
ha-
all, let me double back and be
Sure.
simple. Are you fully staffed at
Yes,
every polling place?
we are
'Cause I know
fully
that's
staffed.
problematic sometimes.
We are fully staffed, and we have a ton of extra people willing to be poll workers, and we are fully staffed in our office. We have openings for 12 temporary employees, including my 6 full-time staff, myself and my deputy, and we are fully staffed.
And so then the next question is staffing for things like the ballot counting and ballot preps and all that stuff. Are you square
Yep.
that way?
Yes. We will, of course, when we get to stuffing envelopes and stuff, it's an all hands on deck with the county employees, other departments, so we are able to pull for that. As far as internal staffing, paid staff for the elections department, we're full, but we're also able to pull from different departments if we need help somewhere else.
And then back to the communications thing, since we've already bled into that and reporting. So each group has voter protection people that are going to be swarming all over this election. So what kind of communication is being set up with them? Or do those folks discuss things directly with the polling place that they're working at? Or
As far as, I'm not sure, I'm not clear on what you mean by voter
I know that
protection.
different people are going to be coming in here, and each party has their own voter protection teams. There's people that are usually on site that, I know I've worked voter at the ballot or at the polling place every year. I have an excellent relationship with my judges there, so I assume they can report any concerns or collaborate with them on site.
The only people allowed in the polling location are our poll workers, the constable, the voters, and anybody who has permission to have a watcher certificate. And those watcher certificates have to come from the party. They have to be requested. Once you request one, we can print you out a watcher certificate. It's on parchment paper. It has a raised seal on it. It has a color seal on it. If you do not have that document, you do not get in. And I believe and hopefully I'm getting this right, it's 2 per party and 3 per candidate on the ballot. So what does that mean? You can assign 2 per party, whoever party's on the ballot. Only 1 can be in the polling place at any one time. Okay, so the other one won't have to wait outside. They can alternate, whatever. 3 per candidate. So if there are 15 candidates on the ballot, multiply that by 3. That's how many watchers you could have for that. But again, only 1 in the building at any one given time. Okay?
Only one per party.
Yes, correct. So it could get crowded. Now, what is their role while they're in there watching? They cannot go past the check-in table. Okay? The voting machines are set back from the check-in table. They can't go back there and examine the voting machines. It's not allowed. You can be there at the check-in table. You can congregate right there. You can't talk to the voters. You can't influence the voters. If there is a lull, they have the opportunity to go over to the check-in table and ask to see the numbered list of voters. And that's everybody who's checked in that day. So they can review that list, they can write down that list, they can take pictures of that list. That's it. So that's their responsibility. Anybody else who does not have that certificate can't be within 10 feet of the building. Okay? You can electioneer 10 feet from the building. As far as peace officers, police officers, military, they have to be 100 feet from the building if they're congregating, unless there's an emergency. If there's an emergency, of course, police presence is needed. Military members, if you're there to vote, you can certainly go into the building in uniform. There's nothing against it. You go into the building, you check in, you vote, and you leave. So the reason for that, the 100 feet rule, is that if you come to your polling place and you see about 5 police officers and maybe 3 military officers congregating outside the building, wait a minute, something's going on, I'm going home. So now you've disenfranchised that voter thinking something's going on, and they leave. So that's why we have the 100-foot rule. But the 10-foot rule for electioneering, They could be 10 feet from the building. They could hand out pamphlets. I instruct all of my judges and all of my constables, as long as you do not disrupt the line of voters going in, they can be there talking to voters, okay? So if there's, if one of those electioneers is over there handing a pamphlet to a voter and there's 5 people behind them and they're holding up that line, that's not allowed, okay? If they want to talk to them when they come out, or if they just want to hand them something and move them along, that's perfectly fine. So we just want to make sure that all our voters have the opportunity to get in there and get out as quick as they can, because November, those lines are going to be long. So,
And I had on here an update from ES&S, but I don't think we've gotten in touch with them. We'll try to get them in again before the election, but are you working on getting what you need from them?
Yes.
And, but you just said you don't have the date set up for any of the testing?
no. Again, that'll be, once we have everything set and everything's working, we'll be able, once we have the test deck and we know that works, then we can take that same test deck and use that for our LNA. It all, coalesces together, every step.
And you'll get those dates to council as well as the
Yep,
general
as soon as we
public,
have all the
correct?
dates finalized, we will post them on our website. We will probably put out a press release as well.
So, John, do you feel like you have the question answer that you wanted in terms of communication on the day? And what if you have heard, what if you're getting reports and you need to get information back out to the rest of us? How are you going to communicate that? What
That's a
system?
question for our public information officer, because, we can,
Well, yes, but, like, for example, and God forbid it happens again, but when things happened the last time, everybody had different
sure.
answers. So do you have a system in place where you're
Yes.
going to call somebody and say, here's what we're doing, here's what you say, and that's it?
Yes.
And can you articulate a little bit what that is?
Probably haven't finalized those plans as of yet. Again, we've tried to not use those cell phones that we provide to the judges for text messages anymore. So we have to, we have our 911 guys involved as well. So there's stuff that we can do. But when we finalize those plans, we can certainly let you know.
Okay, I think that's the biggest concern that I have, is that people just started making up their own rules, and that if it was more centralized and you said, look, here's what you say, don't let anybody go home, or yes, we'll get you paper, or, or
Yeah, in that
more
situation,
ballots.
unfortunately, I don't relitigate it, but I can't fault my poll workers for making decisions in that,
No,
in that
understand.
situation, so.
Live and learn, right?
Yep,
I'm certainly
yes,
not.
and we've definitely made improvements from that.
Just following up to that, I think the concern would be, we have 170,
154 polling places.
154, right? So you have 154 judge of elections that if something is happening that's broad, or even if you're making phone calls,
Yep.
how long is it going to take you to make 154 phone calls to convey the same information? That was kind of what I was pointing to before. Almost, how do you get that communication out, even if it's
Like a
just
blast.
those
Yep.
judge of elections, so that they're all hearing it in real time,
Yes.
almost at the same time, was the point.
Sure.
And I think that Lori was pointing to.
And there haven't been any polling changes,
One.
place changes?
One, Plainfield Township, in the primary Delabole, we had moved them to Benders to share a polling place because we could not find anywhere up in Delabole to take us. We have now secured them a spot at the banquet hall at Plainfield Township Fire Company. Okay, so that's the only one we moved from the primary. And that, we did that because sharing Bender's Mennonite Church with another polling place for presidential wasn't going to work. So we were planning on moving them back back in April.
I guess this moves more into any other questions on communications from anybody? No? The recent court cases that have come down, and I think you started to address that, but is it done, or is it still in flux? And are we still going to be holding on to undated ballots just in case? Like, what's our contingency plan for
We
that?
definitely do that anyway, but Nicole's here, our solicitor had a, engagement he couldn't get out of, so Nicole has a report with regards to the solicitor stuff, okay?
Thank you. And you could just leave extra with her, because we could get it to everybody else.
Hi. So our solicitor he has a family engagement this evening and couldn't be here, but he just has been following all of the recent pending and potential election litigation throughout the state, and just did a quick write-up here for everyone, just to give a quick synopsis of all the recent cases. Feel free to please contact your own solicitor if you have any questions, or you can reach out to Mike directly if you want to follow up on any of these items. Just to note, the first case on this list came out of Fulton County. Just interesting because it was a situation where the PA Supreme Court assessed a minimum of over $1 million in costs and sanctions against Fulton County and their solicitor. I think it was a case where the commissioners were found personally liable for the actions that they took, conducting unauthorized audits of their election.
We won't be doing that, so no problem. So you said that you would be holding the ballot, you will be holding them, and you still are holding them, I guess, because this is still.
Yes, we will still segregate anything that is undated, unsigned, in a separate bucket. Whatever way the wind blows, whether we count them or not. Signatures are definitely never counted, so we always keep those separate. But the undated, again, it's been going back and forth, but we'll always segregate them.
And the legislature gave us no grace on pre-canvassing, correct? So
Correct.
we'll keep trying, I promise, as long as I'm here, I'll keep trying. But, that means we start at 7 a.m., correct?
7 a.m. Until we are done. That is that's what the Act 88 says. Start at 7 a.m. until you are finished.
Can you talk a little bit about the curing process? And do you, I think you alluded to it, but do you start curing before election
Yes,
day?
yes, because when the ballot sorter we were able to purchase with our grant money allows us the opportunity to run those ballots through. And the way the process works is we run the ballots through our ballot sorter, which is connected directly to our Sure system, so we can log those ballots as being received as soon as we scan them in. And then the voter will get an email, if they have an email available, that says, "We received your ballot." So the first pass on that is we run through the ballots, all the ballots we receive every day, we run through that machine. And then we do what's called an audit pass. And what that audit pass does is the ballot machine takes a picture of the signature and date on that envelope. And we run through every single ballot on the computer to see if, in fact, there is a signature and date on there. If there isn't, it's flagged. And then once everything is done for the day, we run them back through the machine, and the machine will automatically spit out those ones that we flagged. And then we're able to pull those aside and keep those separate until otherwise told what to do with them.
So how long does somebody have to cure it? Until 8 p.m.?
8 p.m. on election day. And again, unfortunately, they have to come into the office to do it. Can't send the ballot back out.
Okay.
And no problem with the Sure system.
No. Well, besides it's antiquated, no.
Well, I know that. Just want to know if you didn't have any problem.
No.
When you guys start running tabulating all the ballots on election day,
Mm-hmm.
do you ever do accuracy testing throughout the process?
No, the LNA testing is done prior to make sure that the ballot scans. As I mentioned, we run that to make sure it gets scanned. Any ballots that we run through as we open them on election day during the pre-canvass, we may run into situations where somebody filled out, put a wrong mark on the ballot and the scanner can't read it. So those are pulled out, and those are kept separate until the canvass. And what happens during the canvass is we take those ballots and we reconstruct that ballot
You adjudicate
based on the voter.
ballot.
Yes. With the canvass board, they go through every ballot that is not being able to be scanned. They will reconstruct it, and then again rerun those through the scanner to make sure that they're counted.
So no point on election day, when you're actually using the ballots that people submitted, you don't ever take a sample of ballots, find the tally by hand, run them through the machine, make sure you don't have any issues there?
No, because that's covered during our audit process. So we run 2 audits. If we're selected, there's a risk limiting audit that's designated by the Department of State. They do a 18-number dice roll, And if your county is selected to do that risk limiting audit, they will provide you the information that they need. It may be from a specific ballot container from a voting machine, and it may be a specific batch from when we scan. So what we do is when we scan those ballots, we put them in batches. So we can always go back and say, okay, the state says you need to audit this batch. We can go back and find that batch. And we also were required to run a 2% audit. And what that 2% audit is, it's called a statistical audit. It's 2% or 2,000 votes, whichever is greater. We always wind up with the 2%. And what we try to do is we randomly select locations within the specific county council districts. That's how we split out. So we look at that to get to our total number of 2%, and then we statistically audit those votes as well. And when we do those, we run them through a separate scanner, not one that we used on election day, and then we hand count those votes as well in that 2% audit.
And then you match it against the results on election
Yep,
day.
correct.
But you only do that if the state deems it
The
necessary.
2% is always done.
Oh,
The
okay.
risk limiting audit can be iffy. I think the state decided maybe this year that everybody's going to do it, but we didn't do one in '23. We had to do one in April. So that one's depending on whatever the roll comes out. It's random.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, thanks for being here. Thanks for answering our questions. And
absolutely.
let us know, because obviously you still have time, if you need anything at all from us.
Okay.
He's stealing my thunder. Everything I'm thinking.
You know what I'm always going to say?
Huh?
You know what I'm always going to say what I need?
No.
Space.
Yeah. we've heard
I
that
always
before.
say it.
You know,
It's the only one, it's
Well,
it.
see, but before space, is there anything, if Christmas is before September 30th or October 1st, that you absolutely need in terms of equipment? Are there grants that we've applied to? Like, I
Yeah,
know
we are
there's money
continuing-
out there
We
to
are
support
continuing
you.
to get the grant that the state provides. That's very generous, and we do use it. So we're good.
The referendum's on the ballot?
Say it again?
Referendum?
Yes, yes. The referendum is on the ballot. There is also one question on the ballot for Chapman Borough. Chapman is looking to reduce their council from 7 to 3.
Uh-oh.
So that'll be on their
I'll be
ballot.
staying tuned just to hear that answer that night. I think that's big stuff.
It's my,
I think it's important stuff.
it's my district.
No, thank you again for
Okay.
coming here
Sure.
and being here so late when you don't have to be, but also anything that you need to let us know between now and then. And if we can get ESS and S in here, we don't have to have a special meeting. We could put them on the council agenda just for updates.
Sure.
Would be helpful.
Okay.
And you should probably put a list on your communication of FAQs and
We are definitely gonna
answers
add
to
that.
crazy
That's funny you mention
questions.
that. We're looking to
Because
do
I'm
that.
getting some.
Yep.
Like,
We
are
we
aliens
actually had
allowed
a
to
discussion
vote?
about that this morning. It's crazy. Did you you listen?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, we are
great
doing that.
minds.
Yes, we are adding FAQs to our website.
People want to know all
Yep.
kinds of things that are like,
And the phones ring nonstop. So, I mean, we're happy to answer the phones. It's the same, we get the same question over and over. When are ballots coming out? Stuff like that. So, FAQs are going to be very good.
my big takeaways from this meeting is that you guys have done everything that you can to be ready, that there is a communication system in place, that people in this county have several opportunities to cast their vote in whichever way they see fit, and it should be counted. And if you are in line on that day, do not leave.
By 8 o'clock.
Do not
If
leave.
you're there at 8:01, there's going to be somebody standing there that says, no, you're too late. But if you're in there by 8 o'clock and there's somebody behind you who says, you're good, stay in line.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you. Then
All right.
we'll adjourn.
Have a good night, guys. Thanks.